Hello there, and welcome to this week's Vodcast of AB+. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for sending in questions on all of the commandments, and in particular, tonight's commandment, the fourth commandment. And just at the start, I want to remind you, please do keep on sending your questions in to us on the fifth, the sixth, the seventh commandment, as many ahead of us as you can, and then we'll try and answer those questions as our shows go out. But as I said, this week we have two new guests, and maybe I'm just going to ask them now to introduce themselves so you know them a little bit better.
My name is Jean Farlow, and I'm married to Alex, and we have two grown-up sons and two daughters-in-law and 5 wonderful children, and we live quite close together, which is lovely. We belong to Main Street Presbyterian Church in Garva, where my husband and our 2 sons are elders there. So I don't think you need to know any more about me.
Okay. Thank you.
So my name's Joanne Brown. I live in the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, and we go to Barvis, the Church of Scotland, married, and my hubby is one of the elders there.
Just before we start, I want to read from the Bible, the fourth commandment itself, and then a couple of other passages that will help us, maybe keep us on track as we look at these questions. So Exodus 20, and beginning at verse 8, and this is the fourth commandment. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days you shall labour and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord your God. On it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter, your male servant or your female servant, or your livestock, or the sojourners who is within your gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and the earth and the sea, and all that is in them, and rested on the seventh day. Therefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and made it holy. And then I want to turn to Genesis chapter 2, beginning at verse 1 to 3, and it says this: Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, and all the host of them. And on the seventh day God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. And secondly, turn to Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 3. It says this: 6 days shall work be done, but on the seventh day is a Sabbath of solemn rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work. It is a Sabbath to the Lord in all your dwelling places. And then finally, a bit of a longer passage from Isaiah chapter 58 and verse 13. If you turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy day of the Lord honourable, if you honour it, not going your own ways, or seeking your own pleasure, or talking idly, then you shall take delight in the Lord, and I will make you ride on the heights of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken. And with all those in mind, we'll begin our questions. And the first question that I have down here really will maybe set us up. And it's this: what does it mean to keep the Sabbath day holy? And really, what does the word holy mean? So if any of you would like to chip in to start us off.
Well, could I give you my thoughts on it?
Yes.
First of all, I actually would put the second part of that as the first part. What does the word holy mean? And then what does it mean to keep the Sabbath day? Because, and I'm just looking at a few notes that I've made here. First of all, I want to say something, as I said, about the second part of the question: what does the word holy mean? I think it leads then directly into keeping the Sabbath day, because God is a holy God. He is worthy of complete devotion, and only He is perfect. He is set apart as our righteous God. Therefore, He wants us to keep His day holy. It's the one day He asks us to spend time with Him. He has given us 6 other days to work and to do the things that we need to do. And I'm retired now, and it's actually lovely to do the things I want to do rather than the things that I need to do. But anyhow, we have 6 days to do those things. But He has asked us to take one day to honour Him and to spend time with Him and what the word holy means.
Thank you, Jean. Joanne, what do you think?
I guess what you should be doing is glorifying to God on the Sabbath, that you shouldn't be doing things that we necessarily do the rest of the week, but spending time going to church or glorifying God in other ways rather than just our normal run-of-the-mill day, if you like.
Yeah, and really, when you put it into perspective of 7 days, and God only asking for one of those days to set aside for Him, it's really not that much when He has given us all the days of the week, and yet only one is really to be set aside as a Sabbath. Obviously, we glorify Him every day of the week.
I think also have to bear in mind that God has set it aside for our benefit as well, for the rest of our bodies. We're not machines. So the Russians and the French tried to go with a longer week than a 7-day week, and the people just couldn't hack it. But God has created the day for us to rest from our labours and to worship Him. So those would be 2 aspects I would say, going back to what both Jane and Joanne have said, that help to set the day apart, to make it holy, and to sanctify it. And God in the Commandments has asked us to worship and to honour Him, and this is another instruction to us to take a day to rest, and a day primarily to worship Him.
Mm-hmm. So it's for our benefit as well. It's for our physical and for our spiritual benefit.
We could go off on another tangent and say, whenever it comes to health, as nations, why do we have so many health issues? And part of it is because we are, in biblical terms, workaholics. We're not taking our daily, and we're not taking our weekly rest, and we're trying to defy God. He is our creator. He knows how we are made, and He knows what we need, but we're trying to just fight on.
Okay, so we've maybe answered a little bit of that there, and certainly some food for thought even in there yet. But we'll move on to question 2, because I want to get on to the ones towards the bottom there. But second question is this: what day of the week is the biblical Sabbath? We'll see.
The Jewish Sunday was Saturday, though, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. But I think it was.
But as a New Testament church, it's Sunday. It's Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Well, as I think I sent you a wee quote there as well. Thomas Watson actually said that the reason why God instituted the old Sabbath was to be a memorial of the creation, but He has now brought the first day of the week in its room in memory of more glorious work than creation, which is redemption. So maybe a little bit of a food for thought there as well, that between the Saturday and the Sunday. But I suppose it's not a question that we really ask ourselves in the Protestant circles, in the Christian church, that much.
No, but on the other flip side of that coin, Mark, it's a question often asked to the Protestant church.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you observe Sunday and not Saturday, or not the seventh day as given in Scripture? And I think the Westminster Divines had a good go at it, and in the Shorter Catechism, whenever they come to deal with it, they teach that ever since the resurrection of Christ, the one day in 7 to be kept holy as Sunday, as the first day of the week. And question 59 of the Catechism, which day of the 7th was God appointed to the weekly Sabbath? From the beginning of the world to the resurrection of Christ, God appointed the 7th day of the week to be the weekly Sabbath, and the first day of the week ever since to continue to the end of the world. So Christ is the turning point for that. Which then takes you back to, where does the question come from, or who does it come from?
I had looked at when the change took place in the and I read, I can't remember where I read it, it was about 340 something AD, where the Roman Constantine, because he wanted, I don't know whether it was in a modern day political situation, but he wanted to gain the side of the Jews. So he actually started people, if they, whoever they worshipped, that they should worship on a Sunday. But that is just, by the way, it was something that I read when I was looking into this. But I believe that Jesus slept through the Sabbath day on his death, and he rose on the first day of the week. So why didn't he rise on the Jewish Sabbath? And I think that at that time Jesus inaugurated a new world order then.
Yeah, I would say so. To be honest, I never really thought of it much until recently, and then when the fourth commandment comes up, you sort of have to think about it, don't you?
It's not what I would have chosen, to be honest. Maybe the next one.
I think currently the Jews argue against Sunday, or argue for the Sabbath. The Seventh Day Adventists will argue for the seventh day by their name, and the Worldwide Church of God and Armstrongism, they will be Sabbath keepers. So, they are some of the folks that will be coming at you about being wrong because we keep a Sunday and not the Sabbath as given in the Old Testament.
I'll just move on to the third question, because this is another one I suppose that we would get asked a lot as Christians. Yeah, the third question is this: is any work permitted on the Sabbath? Surely some people need to go to work. So I know there's some examples, maybe in healthcare, things like that we could talk about, but I think there are some closer to the wire, maybe, that are the ones that are the spotlight is shown on for some people if they want to pick holes in this commandment, and to say that it's not easy to keep it, or we can't keep it, or whatever. But is any work permitted on the Sabbath? What do you think?
Well, some has to be.
Yeah.
So isn't it works of necessity and mercy is what is quoted, but I guess, yes, healthcare and police and folk like that, certainly up here, would be working on Sunday. But that's they would be the kind of accepted sort of occupations for Sunday.
Yeah.
But there aren't very few people in your part of the world working on a Sunday, Joanne.
True. Recently, some folk who work in hotels would work on a Sunday, and we only have one shop that's open on a Sunday, that's a petrol station, and apart from that, everything's closed.
And that includes Tesco.
That includes Tesco's, yes. No food shopping on a Sunday here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that really. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jean.
No, go ahead, Mark. You go ahead, and then
I was just going to say, even some maybe church. Well, I don't want to say too much, but maybe some youth leaders or whatever in the past. I know who have maybe ran to the shop at the last minute to get something for maybe a youth fellowship or for an event or whatever that's been taking place on Sunday night, things like that. You know, they would make the argument that that is necessary. People need to drink their tea with milk or whatever it may be. You know, at what point do we say yes or no? You know, is running to the shop on a Sunday evening just for, you know, a bit of milk, is that permitted? Because we're making somebody work by selling that, by going over the counter. What are your thoughts on that kind of thing? Even the likes of you know, not leaving yourself enough on a Saturday night in the car to go to the church
on Sunday.
Yeah. That's, you know, is that necessary?
You just got to be very organised, Lewis, for fuel on a Saturday night.
Yeah.
Well, you know, there is work that is essential. I mean,
Yeah.
now when we see it so clearly now with COVID, where hospitals are working 7 days a week. Well, they're always working 7 days a week, but you know, there are so many of them there 7 days a week, and I'm quite sure there are a lot of lovely Christian nurses in hospitals who would just love to be at church on Sunday but can't, and rightly so. They're doing a work that has to be done. You know, the commandment talks about, you know, neither your ox nor your ass, you know, or any, because they were what was used for people to do the work on the land, to plough the land. Today we have got these great big tractors sailing around, and I have a very big no at that. I have to be honest. This is a personal opinion. God has all promised seed time and harvest. Yes, we have farmers who some years don't have a good year. We run a business. There's years that it's maybe not such a good year, but God always provides, and I find it really very disturbing and disappointing to see, particularly young Christian farmers out on the fields on this, you know, on the Lord's Day just because it's a good day, and they feel like we're not going to get our crop in. But as regards shopping, I can never, for the life of me, maybe I'm driving through Garva, Alec and I, on a Sunday, and there are people coming from the supermarket carrying all their shopping, and I'm thinking, what have you been doing for 6 whole days? You know, as regards a youth fellowship, somebody runs out of milk, I think I could draw the line there. And this is, I'm talking personally here, as a Christian. I think I could draw the line at maybe sending somebody down. I've never had to do it, thankfully. I don't think I've ever bought life, and in my life I bought milk on a Sunday, because I'm a great one for, when I do my shopping, I'm always buying away something that's going to take me into the middle of the end of the next week. But I think that really, you know, Sunday is a day of rest. It's not a day for going out shopping. It's not a day for working. God has told us that we're not to do it. So therefore, we're disobeying his law if we do those things.
I know that when I worked in the mainland, so I work as an optometrist and optician. I worked in the mainland for a multiple company, and our contract was 5 days out of 7. You couldn't say that you couldn't necessarily guarantee that you'd get your Sunday off. So for folk like that, it's very hard in that kind of position that you might want a Sunday off. You might think that but you know, if you're also needing a job, then that's quite a hard. You wouldn't get that up here because of our situation here, the geographical thing, but certainly for some multiple companies, they don't really care that it's a Sunday that you're needing to work.
And that's very difficult for Christians.
Yeah.
But I think there are a couple of things. If we take at the moment, we're chatting there earlier on about amongst ourselves about COVID, and we're going to see it now in the next few weeks. At the busiest time of the year for shops are going to be closed. So if it's not ideal for shops, don't get me wrong, but if the consumer can do without their goods, surely the lesson is there for them to learn that 6 days to shop is plenty. Now, going back to Joanne's point about the contract, part of my argument, and I've brought it up in another dimension of ministry, is that if we as consumers, so if people weren't going into the shops and they were honouring the Lord's Day, then financially it wouldn't be viable, and those shops wouldn't want to open, or stores wouldn't want to open on a Sunday. But part of it comes back to us, that we actually go in, and therefore we generate the demand, and the owner of the business thinks, oh, well, these people need that service. But I'm glad, Mark, you brought us the reading from Isaiah, because I think I hadn't seen this in preparation, but I think this is partly where we've dropped the ball. If we take Isaiah, it says, and call the Sabbath a delight. If we were to rediscover the delight of the Sabbath would be a different day.
Yeah.
I really love that, what you've just said, to see the Sabbath as a delight. As I think it's something that, we all in our lives need to really look at. And I think actually, to be quite honest, I was nervous about doing this. I'll be totally honest with you. I had a busy week with things on, and but I took the time to sit down and look at it. But it has been good for me just to think about things like this here, that you go about your life, and we have the 10 Commandments as Christians. It's good God gave us those for our good, not as a millstone around our neck, but I actually learned a lot from it, and I've really enjoyed, if that's the right word, looking at this. So thanks for that, for asking me, Trevor, because I myself personally have, just made me think deeper, perhaps even about remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy.
That's something we've seen, I suppose, from many of the people who have come on from the first, second, third, and now the fourth commandment. They've all said the same thing, whether during the show or after. It just goes to show us, if we really study these 10 commandments, if each of us even took a couple of days or a week at each commandment and really thought about it, pondered over it in our hearts, what difference would it make to us as Christians and to, our view of the 10 commandments? As you say, they're not a millstone around our neck. As you say as well, this is the fourth commandment, the Sabbath day is something to delight in. So if we really actually think about these things, take time to think about them and read over them, they could benefit us so much, because they're obviously there for our benefit as well.
Well, isn't it Mark 2 that says the Sabbath was made for man and not man for the Sabbath? So, we need to grasp that God has given it to be separate, to worship Him, and also for us to rest, I think. But
we'll go to question 4. I'm not sure how much time we have left. I have another question after that, but we've sort of half answered it maybe, but we'll go for question 4 anyway. How can we keep the Sabbath day separate from other days? And the second part of that question is, going to church enough? So that's an interesting question. I wonder, is that church once or church twice or church with a prayer meeting? What? But is going to church enough to keep the Sabbath separate from other days?
For us, it's church twice because that's what happened.
Jane, what do you?
Oh, sorry,
think?
sorry, Joanne. I thought you were going on to say something else there. I was brought up. I wasn't brought up at Presbyterian. I was brought up in the Baptist church, and we had Sunday school in the morning, Sunday school in the afternoon, an evening service, and then a mission hall after that. And looking at it now, I have no regrets about it. I have, that my parents felt that it was good for us, and there was no argument. We went along, but sometimes I think that if I have too much on a Sunday as regards services, that I'm getting mixed up with like one service that I've listened to. I'm not maybe concentrating as much on, say, the morning service or the evening service. I like to have the morning service and the evening service, and you have those hours in between to, like, the first few notes here that I have. The first day of the week for me, and I'm talking personally, is the day that we can and should worship God together, and then have time to dwell on His Word and time to share, with our families, maybe something that has been said, or, sometimes I would say to the grandchildren, because everybody comes in for a cup of coffee after church on a Sunday morning, I would say to the grandchildren, well, what did you get out of church today, or what did you get out of Sunday school today? And it leads to interesting conversations, because some of them are getting older now and in their teens. But so, I see that as being part of keeping the Lord's Day. And also for me, it is a time of a day that I can enjoy God's creation, because busyness does take up the first days for the other 6 days of the week, and I'm retired, but I am very busy. Don't ask me what I'm doing, but I always seem to be doing something. But we have 6 days, but the one thing that I love to do on a Sunday is to look at God's amazing creation. I live Garva is, if you don't know where it is, it's the heart of the universe, but it's near the north coast. And one thing that I love to do is to walk around Portchurch, what we would call the convent walk. There was a convent there, it's now a school. And I can never walk around that without stopping so many times and just looking out at the sea and watching the waves coming in and hitting the rocks in so many different ways that, I just stand amazed at God's creation. And I think that that's something really beautiful to do on a Sunday. Now, not during church time, but in those few hours between times that you have time, or go out with the children, go into the forest, go for a nice walk, and just see the beauty that is all around us that we miss during those other 6 days of busyness. And Sunday, to me, I love, it's a very important day of the week for me, because I love going to worship God at church, but I also love to just take time to think about Him and to just be amazed at His creation. I live in the country, see sheep in the fields, cattle, well, they're mostly indoors now, but to see the lambs being born, and just to stand amazed in God's presence when we look at these things. So those are just, so I'm rambling on, but then I have been told by my own minister I'm good at talking, and I said to him, well, I'll take that as a compliment if he ever hears it, Anyway.
Well, it's all good stuff, but I think I know in my own experience, having taken part in a lot of things in the past that would have taken place on Sunday, specifically around times of the year where there's maybe missions or things like that running, or youth events or youth fellowships and that, you can have too much on a Sunday, and it just doesn't. It becomes the busiest day of the week if you're not careful. And I think, as you say, it is so important. And you see so many Christians out driving about and looking across the fields, whatever it may be, out for walks on a Sunday. And I think it's lovely to see those people along with their families going for walks in between church times, as you say, and really taking in creation, because it's such a busy week at times. You know, I suppose we wouldn't say we labour 6 days of the week anymore, but we really labour 5. And then we'll have a Saturday, and the Saturday's so busy, we're out doing everything else that we didn't get done the rest of the week. And to have that Sunday, you know, it really is such a blessing. So yeah, I think we're going to too much at times on a Sunday.
Well, Mark, I know we've chatted about the commandments being for individuals, but I picked up something a colleague was quoting on Twitter, and it was along the lines that rest is for the community, or it's a communal thing. There's more to it than the individual keeping the Sabbath, that you know, God gave it to all mankind to keep. Any thoughts on that? So I know I'm not supposed to ask the questions, but any thoughts on that? Do we keep it as a community or just as individuals?
I don't know. I met a couple who, he's an actor, he lives on the mainland, but they have a house up here. And he doesn't do church, and he's not a Christian, but he has totally fallen in love with what is a Lewis Sunday, if you like. So he chooses, when he's here, not to do his normal stuff on a Sunday. He doesn't do his emails, he doesn't work. So he's getting at least the rest part of it, if you like, that he just can't do on the mainland because of his occupation and because there's his other distractions, if you like. But I think folk who not necessarily go to church can still benefit from the rest of a Sunday, if you like.
Yeah.
I mean, what would our bodies be like if we worked every single day of the week?
You couldn't keep going though, could you?
No, but people do, and then, you know, they have all sorts of problems. I mean, I do know people who are workaholics, and they just work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, right through to the next Sunday. And I find it really quite sad, because it's so bad for their own health. And you sort of think of the point of it. They don't have God in their lives, and they're making money, and they get older, and what have they got when they come to die?
And so that then, Jean, as again has come up on various weeks, that just shows a list of broken commandments. If you don't put God first, if you worship money or something else, if you're breaking this commandment, you're coveting because you want more, you're not happy with what you have. So it goes to show that whenever we start to break the commandments, how our lives can spiral out of control. And maybe of the ones we've spoken about, maybe this is the one from a health conscious world that we live in. This is the one to say to our people, well, this is the healthy way to live. But, you've talked there about honouring the business. It's like, with all due respect to Isla Lewis, it's probably the last area of the United Kingdom, Western Europe, to observe the Lord's Day so well.
Yeah.
And we see the moral and economic decline of the United Kingdom.
Yeah.
You know, like Joanne, how would you encourage us to bring the Lord's Day back, or for people to put the Lord's Day first?
I guess here it is, I guess, much easier to observe the Sabbath because that's the way that, you know, it's a cultural thing as well as a church thing, if you like, that so many folk here would have a Presbyterian background that they would still honour the Sunday and still send children to Sabbath schools. You know, some of our congregations here would have Sabbath school in the afternoon rather than during the church service as we do. And they would still send their children to the Sunday schools, even if they had in the afternoon, because I guess they think it's the correct thing to do, even though they're not really maybe committed churchgoers themselves. So, but we feel the benefit of our kind of Sunday here. I guess, I don't know, you get a closeness because of it, because it is, you don't have to defend your Sunday here.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have to defend it at work or speaking to people because that's the accepted norm on the whole. Makes that much easier.
There's a friend, I haven't read all the book yet, but it's about the American business, ties in with Jean was saying about working Sundays. And it's a fast food chain. It's called Chick-fil-A.
Oh yeah.
And they surprisingly, you would say in that industry, they closed on the Lord's Day because of their Christian values. So it can be done. It can be
I
done.
don't think any businesses up here would struggle. You know, people just do the stuff on the other 6 days. They don't ever think that they can do anything different on a Sunday, if you like.
So it's down to us to be better organised in our lives, and or to put God, if we put God first.
Put God first. Yeah.
I think we've run out of time here, run over a wee bit, but sure, it was good conversation and we've discussed a lot there, and I think, well, I've got a whole lot out of it listening to you, and hopefully people at home do as well. But just as we wrap up this evening, I want to say thank you to Jean, thank you to Joanne and Trevor as well for coming along tonight. I hope you weren't too nervous, but you did very well. I'm going to say, if anybody at home has any more questions, please do send them in to us for the next commandment. Or my text message, my phone number, sorry, should be on the screen as well at the minute. So if you have any more questions, please send them in to us and we'll try and answer them for you in the next show on the 5th commandment. So I think all that's left to say is thank you and good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.